Good morning, everybody. I'm Roger Cressy, and I'm by far the least attractive of today's people on the TechCast. I have with me a co-host today, which is something we don't always do. But my friend Edelweiss has joined, and basically it was because we were fighting over who should host Opal.
Yeah.
So
it's that famous.
Yes. So just a little bit my background very briefly, and we're just going to do some housekeeping first. I'll do some of the announcements, and Edelweiss will do some, and then we'll set Opal loose. So I'm one of the founders of the Cubics Group. We're an Oracle Platinum Partner company. We operate around the world in 5 different geographies, and we implement ERP, EPM, and BI solutions. But in this forum, I'm a volunteer for the Analytics and Data Oracle user community, and I work alongside a great number of really amazing people, Edelweiss being one of them. And so really, that's me in a nutshell. And now let's move on to some of the housekeeping. So just so you're aware, these TechCasts, we're always looking for new blood, and Opal's joined us from the dark side, from EPM over to BI. We have a library, a vast library now, a growing library of TechCasts from the past. And you'll see on the slide, there's some examples of some of the more popular ones. We've still got more upcoming. We've got some in December. We've got one of our own folk coming on board. Sorry, I'm just making sure I've got my notes right. So Irvin from our own community is going to be giving a presentation, and we'll continue with our series of TechCast days, which we're looking at doing this year around the time we would have been doing the in-person conference, which is going to run from February the 16th to the 18th. And if you are looking for a really good TechCast, our last one was actually with Patrick Wheeler, who's basically in charge of database technologies at Oracle, and he was showing easy load, transform, and data modeling with Autonomous. So there's some really good stuff up there. I'd encourage you to do it. Thank you. Yeah, so this is, I already shot myself in the foot because this I've said it already. But yeah, we basically have a TechCast Days series, and it's broken up into an ML, machine learning day, a spatial day, and an analytics plus day. So now I am done. Edelweiss, over to you.
Thank you, Roger. Okay, so if you go to the next slide, Opal, we have many ways to connect with our analytics and their Oracle user community. And then as Opal, as she's also Oracle director as myself, we know the value and the big value of the community. So there's a lot of ways to connect with us. We have topics like Roger mentioned, machine learning, spatial, graph, analytics. So if you want to be in touch with us and ask questions and have the experts also answer your questions, we have a Slack channel. Just go through this link and you can connect with us and let's ask questions, and maybe you can share some information, some tips and tricks. So it's a way to all of us grow together. We have also a newsletter. And you can find us in LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. So we are basically in everywhere. And we have the huge pleasure today to have Opal as our speaker today in our very last TechCast for the year. And if you don't know her, which is going to be very weird, but if you don't know her, she's a practice director at Intel Rel Consulting. She's also Oracle director with over 20 years of EPM and analytics experience. She's proud to be an author and co-author of 3 books on Oracle EPM and Analytics Cloud. And as an Oracle East director, she partners with the EPM Oracle product management teams on a regular basis to give feedback and direction on EPM cloud technologies. Opal has been teaching both technical skills and soft skills, which are very, very important, guys, at conferences and events for over 15 years. She's currently blogs at womanepm.com. Opal, the audience is all yours.
Yeah, you don't look old enough to have been doing this for over 20 years.
I appreciate that. All right, well, I'm going to stop my video just to make sure my video demos work perfectly fine. So thank you so much, Roger and Adel, for the super warm welcomes. And in addition to Oracle EPM and analytics, I'm very passionate about diversity in technology, and especially women in technology. I advocate widely on Twitter nearly every day, and I'm fortunate to have the opportunity to have mentored young women in the past. So when I was first approached to present for this community, I was very honored. However, being on the EPM side, I wondered, how can I provide value to the analytics and data user community? Luckily, in 2020, Oracle made that opportunity easily available to us. Today, we'll talk about what EPM is and how it benefits to marry analytics with EPM. We'll also talk about the various integration options between these two Oracle stacks. And before we continue, one big shout out to Wayne Van Sluis, who paved this path for me. He also works for Enroll Consulting. He did the initial testing of Direct Connect, and he passed on his knowledge to me. So first, let's take a step back. For all of you analytics experts on this TechCast today, let's start with a crash course in EPM. So what exactly is EPM, and where does EPM fit? EPM stands for Enterprise Performance Management, and EPM customers focus on, big surprise, enterprise performance. This includes the close cycle, consolidating general ledger data, budgeting and forecasting, profitability analysis, modeling scenarios, account reconciliations, governance, and all of the reporting that goes with it. Essentially, finance and accounting teams do a lot of work with data to understand where the enterprise has been and attempt to forecast and model where it's going. This analysis then drives important business decisions throughout the organization. In Oracle, EPM formally falls under the ERP umbrella. And while it's a complementary technology stack, ERP and EPM are just not the same thing. ERP systems are meant to host lots and lots of transactional data, usually related to the general ledger and accounting close process. Because of the size of ERPs and the types of data stored there, from an internal management standpoint, it's difficult to report on and analyze portions of that data quickly. In addition, ERPs do a really good job of telling you what has already happened at an organization, but don't necessarily give you the tools and/or level of detail for predicting the future. It's good information, but it's not actionable, and it's often out of date by the time it gets to users, and therefore lacking insight. EPM assists in many areas with enterprise management, and it exists on many levels. Initially, EPM was used for things like scenario planning, forecasting, modeling, financial consolidation close, and reporting and analytics. But as you can imagine, over time, as data and metadata have grown exponentially and the methods in business management have evolved, additional processes and technologies were created to assist, like with data governance, account reconciliations between systems, cost and profitability management, and more. And Oracle has followed pretty closely in step by creating supporting technologies when they reimagined EPM for cloud. Here is what Oracle EPM Cloud and Analytics looks like today to us EPM folks. And note that we claim the technology circle in green. You can see how the full gamut of EPM processes are covered by Oracle's vision for EPM. In addition, there are some overlaps with other technologies like Essbase. When we talk about connecting to EPM Cloud products like planning or financial consolidation and close, which are the main two, we're really talking about connecting to a multidimensional database called Essbase, which is the primary data store for many of these applications. You can think of most EPM Cloud products as an Essbase database with bells and whistles interfaces built on top of it to facilitate specific EPM processes, and with added financial calculation intelligence built in. But also note that Essbase is a separately licensed product within the Oracle database group. It used to belong to EPM, but has since spread its wings and joined other technology stacks within Oracle. Essbase databases are groupings of related hierarchies, otherwise known as dimensions, that define and organize the data stored within them. They are often called cubes and may include calculations for variances, ratios, and allocations. They're great at creating data marts that quickly calculate and report on data. And many end users use an Excel add-in to access the data. And they do this not through written queries, but by typing in the exact intersection of data they want. This involves selecting at least one member name per dimension. And dimensions and associated properties drive the design of the Essbase cube, its size, and performance. You can't really view Essbase databases in EPM Cloud because they're behind the scenes, but you can interact with them with many of the end user interface technologies for reporting and analysis. And although we use the term database here, Essbase is not like a relational database, like at all. And this point will be important later when we talk about data visualization. As everyone on this TechCast knows, data visualization is highly beneficial. So beneficial, in fact, that it's long existed in some form or fashion in Oracle EPM, even back before Oracle owned these technologies. And it's already made its way into Oracle EPM Cloud. The right data visualization solution can help EPM customers to see connections between their data, go beyond grids and spreadsheets of numbers to something more meaningful, see shifts in data faster, bring actionable insights to the surface, and bring context to their EPM data by helping customers tell the financial story. This is especially important now for many finance and accounting departments as we continue to navigate COVID and the economic impacts of quarantine. Within Oracle, data visualization is offered in multiple flavors and platforms, so customers of both EPM and analytics can sample this awesome way of consuming data. Let's walk through what data visualization options exist on the EPM side and which ones you can find on the analytics side. Oracle EPM Cloud comes with its own visualizations called dashboards. These dashboards are more of a guided visualization through key business data related to a specific business process. They're created by administrators and then assigned to users. The users, however, do have the ability to interact with charts, drill down within the cube, submit data, and comment on the data. These dashboards are not as robust as what is offered on the Oracle Analytics side, but they do provide a compelling solution and avoid the costs of licensing additional software. For example, displayed here is an expense forecast dashboard. This is actually an out-of-the-box dashboard that comes with the planning product stacked within EPM Cloud. EPM Cloud dashboards have features like combined point of view dimension filters, maximizing individual components of a dashboard, focusing on specific charts to get more detailed information, drill downs into data, the ability for end users to change the chart type on the fly, and more. And the development requires no coding and utilizes a simple drag and drop interface, as you'll see in the next video demo. Currently, there are 2 versions of EPM Cloud dashboards. We are looking at version 1.0. This version creates charts and grids based on an object called a form, which is where end users go to input their drivers and data. Therefore, as you can imagine, there are some limitations with version 1.0, as you can't go outside of a single data source per box, as forms are only based on a single cube. In addition, the list of data visualizations are somewhat limited. As mentioned, in the Oracle EPM world, dashboards are relatively simple to build and often have no coding required. In the dashboard designer, which is what we're looking at now, the content is selected from the designer palette on the left and then dragged onto the canvas to the right. Within the 1.0 dashboards release, content may include forms, a variety of chart types, and external artifacts, which could be things like narrative commentary or even a scraped web URL page. This time we're creating what we're going to call a revenue forecast dashboard. And note that there are global dashboard settings that we can apply, such as the fixed or flexible layout, the option to assign calculation objects to the dashboard that users usually run within EPM Cloud, and they can do this on their own. So now let's kind of look at the EPM dashboard creation process. What I'm going to do is add a tile chart to the canvas, which occupies the entire canvas by default. Then I'll go to the revenue form folder and drag in the revenue by category form onto the canvas. Notice that you can drag it into various areas of the canvas. In this case, I'm going to put it below the tile box. Finally, I'll add a third chart type, which is a donut chart to the left of the revenue by category form. And notice that it really is as simple as drag and drop. That's all we have to do. We don't have to code anything here. I can also adjust the settings of the charts. So the tile chart is adjusted to include a form as its data source. We're going to use the revenue summary form. And then you can also reduce the height percent of the chart to 20% of the canvas. And you can also scale the data values to millions. So there's quite a bit of configuration that you're allowed to do within EPM dashboards. Give that a second to catch up. So then for the donut chart, I'll change the data source to the same as the form to the right, which is the revenue by category form. So you can switch back and forth to different forms. And for the revenue by category grid itself, I'm going to reduce the width percent of the form by 10%. So you have the availability to kind of choose a template-like design and then change and modify the widths and heights of each one of the boxes. There's also freeform mode where you can kind of do it on your own. And then at any point in time, as the developer, I can use the runtime button to view the dashboard as users would view it. In September of this year, Oracle released a major update to EPM Cloud Dashboards. This 2.0 release provides better and more powerful visualizations that will allow the EPM Cloud platform to do more and see data differently. Some notable new visualizations in this release include ring gauges, pyramids, spark charts, and geomaps. And in addition, the construct of these dashboards are no longer limited to forms, custom text, and web pages for data sources. In this release, customers can go against any cube within the application. And in the future, customers will be able to go against any cube in their EPM Cloud environment. So if EPM customers have a version of dashboarding and Oracle is iterating that tool to become better, why would they need Oracle Analytics? So first of all, to provide more self-service. In EPM Cloud, only special users can create dashboards, and users can only consume them. With data visualization, users can create their own dashboards, much like Excel spreadsheets. In addition, Oracle Analytics provides modern analytical capabilities. In EPM Cloud dashboards, users cannot do things like prep their data, run macros, nor present their story in any fancy way. They can run the dashboards to the web interface and take screenshots for publishing. There's currently no export capability nor integration of EPM dashboards with Microsoft Office products, although these features are coming. Next, the Oracle Analytics data visualization tool offers more visualization options than EPM Cloud dashboards. Although they are much closer now in ability, Oracle Analytics is still and always expected to be a step up from what is available in EPM Cloud. Finally, in Oracle Analytics, users can not only create their own dashboards, but also add in their own data from external data sets beyond Oracle EPM Cloud. And that is just something that is not possible with EPM Cloud dashboards today. So let's talk about the integration options. If an EPM customer wants to marry the two technology stacks, what options exist for them today? But first, just a side segue here, let's talk about how EPM users extract data from cubes. As mentioned before, Essbase cubes drive most EPM Cloud applications. And what drives Essbase cubes is their hierarchies, which we also refer to as dimensions. Here is how we see dimensions within an EPM Cloud application. In this case, this is the financials module within the planning product. This is an out-of-the-box tool. And these dimensions have many members underneath them. And these dimensions and members have properties, which is what's spread across the screen here in the second screenshot, that help determine how they store and calculate data. When Oracle EPM users query data from these Essbase cubes, they don't write relational queries. Most just use an Excel add-in tool called SmartView and type in members from each dimension, as highlighted in green here. And after pressing in basically an easy button, data just populates in Excel. So this experience is what data visualization is competing against. What we're talking about is two completely different worlds and how data is extracted from EPM versus DV. Because analytics tools often think more relationally, that can be problematic for an EPM user to understand how the cube hierarchies are being referenced and displayed. What this means is that there are a number of general design considerations when using any DB product against EPM Cloud, and we're not just talking about Oracle's DB product. These issues and challenges exist even with products like Tableau. For instance, in EPM, we often have financial cubes with dimensions that contain ragged hierarchies, not symmetrical hierarchies. In addition, hierarchies are not always designed with data visualization tools in mind, with like things grouped together. An EPM user can't expect to use the same feature sets in DB as they do in EPM, so it does require a learning curve. And in some cases, special cubes are designed for the sole purpose of being a data source for data visualization because of these stark contrasts. So let's talk about the options for connecting DB to EPM. First, in the olden days, otherwise known as pre-summer 2020, you could mirror your EPM Cloud cubes to the separately licensed product called Essbase and then direct connect DB to Essbase. However, since that involves duplicating data sets, it's not really the best idea. Also, in the olden days, you could take the same action, but then use the RPD to connect to DB. Again, not the best idea because of data duplication. A third way that's not a bad option is to connect to EPM Cloud through the RPD. This does offer both pros and cons, and there are customers today using this method, but it is lacking in features compared to option number 4. The final method catches up to summer 2020, when the Direct Connect option was released. This is a direct connection to EPM Cloud, and us EPM folks are actually quite excited about it. So let's take a look at option number 3, which is connecting to EPM Cloud via the RPD. We've already built our data visualizations, and now we're building out our narration presentation. For all intents and purposes, you're using DV, it behaves fine, and it creates data visualizations that can be used to tell a story. It uses the same type of connector as Direct Connect. The differences are mostly related to how it interacts with EPM Cloud dimensions, which I'll go into more detail on with Direct Connect. So luckily, we can discard option number 3 if you want a more EPM-focused solution, and instead use method number 4, which is Direct Connect. Direct Connect was first supported on the analytics side before it was available for use within EPM Cloud. On the analytics side, this feature came out in May with the 5.6 release. However, this was not fully functional until September, when Oracle EPM Cloud allowed for Direct Connect. Since then, there have been 2 more OA releases, 5.7, which came out in July, and 5.8, which came out in September. The configuration of Direct Connect from Oracle Analytics to Oracle EPM Cloud is actually relatively simple. There's an easy 3-step process for this. First, from Oracle Analytics, create a new connection and select the magical Oracle EPM Cloud option that's available now. This will ask you to connect to an EPM Cloud application. So next, you connect to your EPM Cloud environment. And there is a special syntax for the URL, which is a little bit different than what we use on the EPM side. You can copy the URL of your cloud environment, but stop at the oraclecloud.com part of it, and then append the domain at the end. You will need an EPM Cloud login with appropriate rights. I'd recommend service administrator rights, and Wayne tells me you need DV author privileges on the DB side. Then decide on the authentication options and save the connection details. Finally, once you add the connection, you'll need to create a data set, and you'll be asked to select one of the cubes within your EPM Cloud application. A single connection would need to be created between analytics and each EPM Cloud cube that is to be used in data visualization. This Direct Connect method provides multiple benefits over others, including utilizing real EPM security due to the Direct Connect to EPM Cloud, not needing to model in the RPD, the use of live connections, which decreases the need to duplicate data, and very importantly, enhanced metadata options, like exposing various member properties, which are useful to end users when going against EPM Cloud data sources. And here's a demo to show Direct Connect in action. So we've already created our connection, and this connects to Planning Cloud, by the way. So let's now work on the data set and bring it into a new DB project. So I'm going to select one of the cubes, and then due to some odd web browser nuance, I had to go back out to my data set list and reselect it in order to properly see the source hierarchies in my project. Now that I've done that, what you can see on the left-hand side is a long list of dimensions in the source EPM Cloud cube. These hierarchies have many items in them, as this connection brings over nearly every member property that exists within each dimension. That is the advantage of this type of connection over the other options. In addition, both parent-child and generational hierarchy displays are possible in this type of method, which is a little bit different than the others. And these lists are extremely long, which you can tell because they're going against the sample application, which has support for over 20 international languages. And each international language has multiple generations, so you can just imagine how this list proliferates. What requires a learning curve here is that EPM users would not necessarily expect to see this in their hierarchies, not the properties, but they would expect to see not even parent-child or generation builds, which is how it's often referred to. What they would see is direct dimension members, which is what they're used to within the EPM Cloud tools. They would expect to see an actual list of all of their hierarchy members and just drag and drop the ones that they want, not exactly this type of interface. So now that we've perused some of the notable hierarchies, let's start building out our visualizations. And this part is a bit cumbersome. Not only do you have to be well acquainted with the cube's dimensions, but you also need to know where data actually resides. Because again, this is not relational. So the way that it works when we think about these as like cubes, it can reside in over a zillion plus potential combinations. So we also have to add most dimensions to the filter area, which is what you see me going through right now, to ultimately select which intersection of data we wish to see. One of the drawbacks here was the limit values by feature, which defaults to auto and does not work very well, in my opinion. I had to manually switch all of these over to none in order to make sure I could see everything I wanted. So let me go ahead and speed this up a little bit. So once I finish the process of adding all of my dimensions to the filter, I can finally see data. And now I'm able to work on configuring the visualization itself and also tweaking the story that I want to tell. There are some features like remove only that you can see me using here with the bar chart. And these are actually very similar to features that we have on the EPM Cloud side. So that feels very natural to us. And it helps us refine our data intersections so we see only what we want to see. Let me let this catch up. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and switch this back to a trend line, which is really what it should be. It's more appropriate for this type of data. And then I'm going to create a second visualization and take advantage of the inherent narration feature, which I thought was pretty cool. And then voila, we have an easy dashboard that helps me tell my story of gross profit for the last year. So why don't all EPM customers just jump on the analytics bandwagon? Well, there are some drawbacks with this integration today. As you noticed in the demo, EPM dimensions can be quite cumbersome to scroll through. They can have many properties, and DV tools assume the hierarchies are symmetrical when they're most often not. As mentioned before, some applications have to be designed differently and are made exclusively for data visualization integration. In addition, none of these integration methods have all the EPM features, and this is something Oracle has been working on for years, and they continue to iterate and enhance what users are able to access and use. For instance, the parent-child method is new to us, and that's something that we could really use over something like generations. The next one is something I call web browser nuances in Oracle Analytics Cloud, and we're no stranger to them in the EPM Cloud world. Sometimes things just aren't functioning as expected in each web browser, which can create some headaches. Direct Connect is not available in Oracle Analytics Desktop, and this would be a nice to have for users who prefer to develop in their own local environment before sharing with their coworkers. On the EPM Cloud side, we have a lot of users that work in Excel. They're used to having their own local environment where they can play and model and do whatever they want, and it would be nice if there were kind of a similar environment available locally for analytics. And then finally, one of the most important drawbacks is that additional licensing is required for analytics, which may not meet the needs of all Oracle EPM customer budgets. So what are the key takeaways from the marriage of Oracle EPM Cloud and Oracle Analytics? In summary, Direct Connect is here. For EPM customers who need more robust data visualization capabilities in a tool like Oracle Analytics, there are now better options for directly connecting EPM Cloud data sources. Next, EPM Cloud does have its own set of dashboards. So Oracle EPM Cloud customers who do not have the budget for an additional platform can have a dashboard-like solution. Next, if integrating data visualization against EPM Cloud, self-service is obviously enhanced. This is an exciting turn for power users and data addicts who want to see their data differently by creating their own dashboards. However, EPM cubes do look a little relational in DV, and this does require a learning curve to properly master this integration. Yet, both solutions together do create an amazing way to provide context to data and to visualize the EPM story, and it's just going to get better over time. Finally, there are 2 different licenses required today to have both Oracle Analytics and EPM Cloud. For most EPM Cloud customers, they pay on a named user basis per month, whereas Oracle Analytics customers can expect more of a consumption model. So here are some helpful links that cover Oracle EPM and Analytics in case you'd like some more information. And with that, thank you all for listening to this TechCast today. If you have questions, please put them into the Q&A window. And I'm also going to invite Roger and Adel back into the conversation in case they have any insight and colorful commentary on your questions.
We do have a couple of questions coming through now, Opal.
Sure.
We'll start with you, and then we'll throw it around as necessary. From Teresa Condit has asked, she is really interested in this technology offering and wants more details. I would refer you in the first instance, Teresa, probably to the Oracle website, but that can also be a bit of a minefield. Opal, what would your suggestion be in terms of where to get information about Oracle EPM and the direct connector and OAC?
Yeah. So the first link in the previous slide, and I assume that you guys share the slides, basically talks to you directly about how the integration works. But I'll be perfectly honest, I believe it's just naturally built in. I don't think you have to pay any additional costs for that connection. I think it's just there. And then, assuming, of course, that you've licensed EPM Cloud and you have Oracle Analytics, it's just ready for you to start using. Okay.
And then Dan Vlamis says, excellent presentation, Opal, thanks.
Thanks, Dan.
Question, with the limitations of really using embedded total hierarchies in DV OAC, example, period name having quarters and months, but no indentation, does this really hinder using OAC against APM data? Also, he's cheating, he's asking more than one question. Also, can we embed EPM dashboards with an OAC dashboard to get most of both worlds?
Okay, so just to answer the last question first, no, as far as I know, there's no direct integration between EPM dashboards and analytics dashboards. To answer the first question, and I'd even offer this question to both of you, Roger and Adel as well, but I personally do feel that this does hinder using EPM and OA to a certain extent, right? Like once you get over the learning curve, I think it makes sense, but I think it is a learning curve. It's not like an overnight type of thing where you use it one time and then you understand how everything works. It's very different how OA looks at those hierarchies. And so I personally think that there is a slight hindrance here, but I think that we've got customers on the EPM side who have fully embraced this, kind of understand what the limitations are, and they've decided to move forward. We also have customers who built, in this case, it was Essbase cubes that were specifically purpose-built for DV to kind of understand and get around some of these limitations and work with these hierarchies better. So I don't know if that answered your question, but I'd also like to offer that a response from Roger and Adel.
Just very briefly, Gabby Rubin gave a presentation last week talking about it being on the roadmap. So it is coming, that proper ability to properly browse hierarchies in DV and in the OAC world and suite of products, whether it's BI Publisher or DV or any of those, it is coming. I guess when is, how long is a piece of string type of question. Edelweiss, did you have any?
No, it's I always say it's exactly the same, and we don't know when it's coming, basically. But yeah, it's totally different the way that it manages the hierarchies, and that's as Opal said, is going. So for users, it has a learning curve. It's not like this.
Yeah. Then actually the next one I think has already been answered. Franklin Chow asked, can DV be embedded in the EPM dashboard?
And I think he's asking the other way, and the other way is not possible either, at least not for today.
Yeah, just as an aside, we've got some sneaky Oracle product folk in
Right.
the meeting. And if you look in your comments, you'll see Mitch Campbell, again, another good friend of mine, is giving some of the answers. You'll find in there some, so don't ignore the chats. Charlie Berger asks, do you see how much applicability, that's a nice word, Charlie, for machine learning? Do you see much applicability for machine learning in EPM? If yes, can you describe?
So
Signed,
I'll be,
in Kansas.
yes, signed Kenny in Kansas. I love that. So I have less experience with machine learning, so I'll definitely throw that question to Roger and Adel in case they have more. But what I would say is on the EPM side, we do have artificial intelligence and machine learning creeping in as well. They're looking to it, especially like on the financial close side, to automate a lot more tasks. But in addition, on the planning side, they recently enhanced the predictive capabilities, which allows you to kind of predict out your data and what to expect from a forecast standpoint. They also have a tool called strategic modeling that allows you to use many different types of statistical models to forecast out and predict, especially with mergers, acquisitions, and black swan events like COVID. So we do kind of have it. I don't know if in the way that analytics uses it, I'm quite certain there are many use cases for it on the EPM side. I just am not familiar enough to answer it directly. So Roger and Adel, do either one of you have an answer for this?
Yeah. Yes. So I mean, to your point about process, I think you're right. A lot of the machine learning is about process. So account reconciliation cloud obviously makes use of it to match transactions and sort those out. But I think in practice, what we see happening in the field is that people will use a full-blown machine learning model in an ADW environment, for instance, and that will then seed something in maybe an allocation or an EPM context. So but it's not, it's not natively synced. You have to build that. And after that, there are no more questions. We've answered all of them. So I think, in fact, we're almost at time. So any other comments, Edelweiss?
We need to remind the audience that we are going to share the slides, and we're also going to share the recording of this session in YouTube, in our YouTube channel. So this is something that if you have some doubts after a few days, just you can go through our YouTube channel and see the session again.
Yeah. Yes, good point, Edelweiss. And yeah, if you do have any further questions, then feel free to bring them through to any of us here. Focus on Opal, of course, the most wise of us in today's chat.
I don't know about that, but
but I think with that, I think we're there. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Opal. That was superb. Thank you, Edelweiss.
It was, and it was great also to have this year many sessions that the people also can go through our website and our YouTube channel and see all of them. And if you want, if people want to share more tips and tricks and topics that they want to share with us, just submit a submission for our TechUs days, our TechUs. But we have another question. Can EPM dashboard connect with Essbase 21C?
So not exactly. What the EPM product management team would say is that for anybody that's on Essbase 21C, obviously you're going to probably look at the Oracle Analytics stack to use and create your dashboards. For EPM on its own, if you wanted to have an Essbase-like experience within EPM Cloud, then what you would do is move Essbase to freeform planning, which then would be able to access EPM dashboards. So the short answer is no, but there are workarounds for that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Very good.
And then we finish our last TechUs days of the year.
Yeah. Very good.
Thank you so much, Opal, for
presenting
this excellent session. Thank you, Roger, for having me as a co-host. And thank you all of you to attend our session, and we will see you next year.
Yes,
Yeah.
Happy New Year's, happy holidays.
Happy
Happy
holidays
everyone.
for everyone.
Thank you.
And thanks, Carrie, for all your work in the background.
Yes, thank you, Carrie.
Totally. Thank you so much,
Bye-bye.
Carrie.
Bless you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.